Hello, and welcome to my cake kitchen. I know you've been waiting for a little while now. Bear with me. I need to fix this camera quickly. But this contraption right here, we're talking all things edible printing. So if you're a beginner who wants to pick up an edible printer, don't know your way around printing, join the club here because we're going to be tackling edible printing from a complete amateur's point of view. The fears you have, what you need to look out for, is it worth it having them? Why I have one in the first place, how I use it, because I'm not very tech savvy. So we are just going to be approaching this from the point of view of I don't know what I'm doing, but I have this thing that works for me, and I'm going to show you how I work the intention around it, and surprisingly, some things that I do that might have you scratching your head a little bit. So we're talking all things edible printing. I will also be talking you through some of the mediums by which we derive some printing, which is from wafer paper to icing sheets. That's what we're going to be doing today. And then from here, the next couple of days following this video, we will be transitioning to creating some simplistic cakes using edible prints. And then you can see the various mediums that you can bring some simplistic designs to a presentably elegant cake. So if you're a beginner, this is right for you, and I hope you stick around. Whilst I've been gone, there are a few people in the chat who I know wants to get my attention. Delaney, my moderator, Delaney, I know you have school and you have bands and all of that. If you're still here, hello there. I know you will have to leave very shortly, and that is completely okay. But whilst you are in the chat, I'd like to invite you to like the video. Just like it, tell YouTube that you've been here with us. And I know people's days move very quickly, and sometimes they're unable to stop by for the entire duration of their stream. But for your reassurance, the stream stays on for eternity. So you can always come back and watch it. And the good thing about these streams are that they are not edited largely. So you get the raw footage of what exactly happens here, which is the intention for creating this stream, to give you a very raw behind the scene and resources that you will use for your own cake decorating and baking purposes. We have long form videos already existing on the channel. There are shorts videos there to help you, and also perhaps a daily live session where we talk through all things cake related. But if we're just meeting for the first time, consider this a first time date. My name is Gladys. I'm a baker and cake artist, and over here I make simple, informative tutorials to help you navigate cake decorating easily. As a result, I create all things cake, from baking tutorials to cake decorating processes, breaking it down to simplistic, understandable forms, just so that you are confident enough to take the information and use them in your own kitchen in your own time. So I hope this video is of some use to you today. I was supposed to be here earlier, but I had a little crisis over there. So back to the subject of the day. What is this printer for? Right? It might look like a printer that is used for printing purposes. We're not a printing press, but it's an edible printer. Well, edible printer doesn't mean you have to eat this. This is not cake, by the way. It is a printer that is specifically used for printing edible images. And if we're talking edible images, you may have seen online eat my face cake, cake with edible images, and something like this. So the edible image relates to something like this, where you can derive a print using a printer. The printer is not custom made for printing these edible images. The edible images refer to the printing ink and cartridges that are supposed to be edible, which is not edible to be eaten, but edible in terms of they have to have food safe processes and ingredients and inks that should be safe for human consumption, because the cartridges and ink that is related to paper printing is non-edible and is toxic and it's not supposed to be edible. So as a result, even though the have you seen me struggling with this one? Even though the printer is a generalized printer that can have the cartridges of a general printer, non-edible printer for regular paper printing, the setup and the printer head is optimized for edible printing, which means the ink that goes into the cartridge is completely edible. And the printer, once it is used for edible printing, has to stay exclusively for edible printing and cannot be used for any other thing else. So that is the clear difference. So some of the struggles of having an edible printer and stuff like that, there is a ton of information online already, but I have found that I have struggled using this thing right here. I'll tell you where my struggles are, and I'll tell you how I use this so that you are also well informed about the processes and what to look at for, just in case you're considering this as an investment. But I should also say, in terms of printing and deriving other elements that you can add as decorative things to your cake, there are various mediums like the Cricut thing. What is it called? The Cricut. There is there is a machine called Cricut that can be used to cut edible images and print out stuff. The problem here is that if it matters, I am not very tech savvy. How does that work? I'm not very tech savvy. I say that, but then I shoot myself and edit my own videos. So how is that? Okay, right. I say that to say I am not very adept with the processes involving this printer, from scaling an image to transferring, doing the design. I know nothing of that. Believe me when I say. So I only use this printer to up to the point where my ability can allow, and then I leave it as that. So is it worth the investment for me? Perhaps yes. Would it be for you? You have to consider your circumstances. So let's start with the printer itself. I find that I'm going to have to reposition myself slightly or move things around if necessary, just so that you can understand what I am doing here. So first of all, this is a Canon. I believe it's the Canon TS 550, I believe. So I will leave some links in the description box for later, just so that, one second, bear with me. I'm not sure if anyone is trying to talk to me in the chat, because I'm just clicking into the chat and I can't see the chat over there. So if all of you are in the chat, hello there. Delaney is up for school. Bear with me. So this is the Canon TS 5000. Is it 550? I'll leave a link in the description box. The name confuses me. It's the 5000 series Canon TS. But yes, I picked this up on Amazon. I'll leave the exact link to it. It is what's the word I'm looking for? It is carried by an edible printing business that specializes in all these items. So from the printer to the wafer paper to the icing sheet, which we will come towards, I picked them up from the same place, because when I was seeking information about where to buy a printer, the information was a bit like all over the place. And I also found out that you want to be able to get a service that provides this specific printer for you for use of edible printing, because apparently the printer head and the cartridges are different for different printers. So if you even bought yourself a regular printer from a stationery store, you might find some slight difficulties using it for edible printing. So I think from the advice I sought, it was important to get it from a shop that specializes in all things cake decorating and edible printing services. As a result, I will leave the specific link in the description box for you to check out later. This is not a sponsored video or anything. I find that for some of my own struggles, there are a ton of you who might want to know where people fall short or what struggles are there, because it's easy to fall into the illusion that because I make very beautiful cakes, I have it all together, and that is generally not the case. There are some things I'm good at I think in recent times, people have found I struggle just as much with piping because of my shaky hands and also with how I visualize things. So it's kind of difficult for me to even derive specific piping details. But then again, I can move on to go and make hyper realistic cakes and all sorts. So just because a cake maker or decorator is good at one thing doesn't mean they are great at all things across board. And finally, this printing thing is one of the things I struggle with. Fun fact, I actually end up ordering edible prints all the time because I find that for sometimes for say corporate toppers that I need, logo toppers and stuff like that, the amount of time that I have to scale an image, create the 12 cupcake toppers per sheet, and then derive them by cutting them individually is so much time. It's not worth the effort for me. So I end up paying for that to be delivered from custom makers who create them for me, and I have a printer at home. The simple reason being, I struggle to scale down images and I don't know my way around the design element of creating edible print. So I'm going to be talking you through my very simple, specific process that works for me here. And actually, the brand is the TS 5051. So TS 5051. I'll leave all that information. It's a Canon one. And with that, the specific thing I was talking about is the printer head, which has the cartridges. In fact, when I had thought of coming to do this live because my printer was indicating the ink was low, and I was hoping to come and do the video and show you how I refill my cartridges. I'm a little bit unsure of whether I'm doing it right or wrong, but I've checked some resources which informs me about how to do them. And then I got to cleaning the head a little bit, and then some reason it says the ink is okay. So I don't know if the sign that I had run out of ink had something to do with the ink clogging the printer head, which is why it said the ink had run out. So after cleaning it, it came back to functionality and it seems like it would have refilled. But I'm going to show you how I refill this. I'm going to show you into what the head looks like. I'm going to show you some aspects of the use of this printer here and things that are slightly different. So first of all, when you get the printer, it looks like a regular printer, but like I said earlier, it is an edible printer because the ink that goes into it is edible, as in it's supposed to be food safe, it's supposed to be edible, and it's supposed to be non-toxic for human consumption. As a result, it is very liquid. Depending on where you buy your printer from, you'll find that there are various ways that the ink comes with it. Sometimes the ink comes in a container that already has a pin to help you pour, but I bought this as a package, and I had the printer, I had the selection of ink here. We have this color, I can't pronounce it, and then we have the magenta, and we had yellow, and there is black. Apparently these are the main colors, and then you mix them or they blend in the mixer head to create the different variation of colors that we have, which is what I used to derive this. We will come to talking about wafer papers, icing sheets, and the quality of prints, which works and why you should use certain ones against others. So I got the printer with this printer, the ink, and also the refillable kit. Now this looks like I'm some sort of nurse or a doctor, which has nothing to do with medicine here today, because these are syringes, and the syringe has a long needle here that allows you to draw the ink and then refill your cartridges ink there, the ink into the cartridges. I'll show you how to do that. But alert here, if you want to do that, there are a few things you want to observe, which I will talk you through. So let's go in and have a look at what this printer looks like on the inside. Obviously, there is this part for scanning and copying. Much of these settings on the printer, I have no idea how to use, and I have no problem admitting to that at all. I have no idea how to do that, and it's not a problem for me to tell you. But like I said, I'll be coming to how I use this for myself. At some point I'm probably going to move out of shot, but I hope what I'm showing here would help you. So if you look closely, that is, if you can see on here, when you turn, the on button is here, and then there is home, there is copy, there is scan, there is print, there is these three settings. So of course, if I wanted to scan an image, I'll try that and we'll see how that works. And then there is obviously print over here. Print is where I normally enjoy using. So if you want to move that to print, you go to print. There are arrows here. There's the OK key, there's the top, there's the button, and then you move it across. So if I move this down, it goes round down there to the question mark. And then if I keep moving, so the arrows are just for you to choose what function you want over there. I hope you can see what I'm doing. I hope you can see what I'm doing, but I know it can be a little bit difficult to see over here. But if you look closely, you can see that over here. Now, if you lift this up, obviously you are going to see where you can print, copy and scan things from. There is the tray on the back here that I can move up, and then the selection of paper will sit in there. Just like a regular printer, that is how this functions. But the key thing about this edible printer is obviously the printer head. I know you can't see into here, and it is going to be difficult to bring you in without upsetting the move. If you can see, please leave, if you can see into this, please leave, let's see. Please leave a thumbs up so I can see if you can see what I see here, because I just want you to have like a view of what this looks like on the inside. Let me see if I can prop this up a little bit just to give you a good view on the inside. It is a bit difficult to do that. Bear with me. Right, let's see. Right, that has closed. Right. Right. Let me move out of the way. So, oh, has it gone off? Okay. Right. So if you look straight into the printer, we have the cartridges here, right? So the cartridges have the same color that are represented on the ink. So you have the cyan, you have the magenta, you have black, and then you have yellow, right? So these are the colors that are represented in here. The black has a large one and a small one. I have no idea, like I told you, I have no idea how it works in there, but at least I hope you can see into the printer head. Now, if you wanted to take the a cartridge out, this is what it looks like. There is this here that you can just release lever here that you can press and then lift. And then there are two compartments. There's the foam aspect here, and then there is this part where you fill with the ink. So all four of them look similar to this, except for one that is a little larger. Now, a note of caution here. If you're handling this, let me see. Okay. Right. If you're handling this, okay. Oh, Marie, you can see into what I'm saying. Thank you. Thank you for putting the thumbs up, because I couldn't see into the chat and I was wondering if I'm talking into the open air. Thank you very much, Marie, and thank you for being here. All of you in the chat, if you can hear me or you can see what I am doing here, please leave a thumbs up in the chat and also like the video so that YouTube will know, because even though I make beautiful cakes here and I seem like I know what I am doing a lot of the time, there are small things that I struggle with, and I hope to inspire you to know that even if you don't know everything, you can still achieve great things with your decoration, which is why I am doing this video, because this is one of the spaces where I struggle very much, because I don't know my way around this contraption here, but it's supposed to be useful. And there are people who actually specialize in edible printing and can derive different sorts of designs. And I have some suppliers who are super helpful. So I encourage you. But one rule of thought that I've come across consistently is that if you're not going to be using this on a consistent basis, do not invest into it. And for me, it is neither here nor there. The intention for which it is said that if you're not going to use it consistently, do not invest into it, is simply because the way the printer head is set up with the ink, if you're not using it consistently, it's likely to clog the printer head and give you problems. It can even break the printer and its use, which will make it a less worthwhile investment. If you bought a printer, printed one image, 6 weeks in, you go to get it and the ink has dried out and clogged the printer head. So I guess that advice and intention is set in good stead. But even though I have a printer, I don't use it every week, and it has fairly been okay. I haven't had the same problem that is supposedly happening when you don't use your printer regularly. I have no answers as to why that is. Perhaps it's probably because of the formulation of the ink. It has something to do with the specific nature of the printer. I don't have a clue. I think on average, I use my printer maybe once every fortnight, and it sits at room temperature on my lounge counter somewhere, safely stood there. I really have no clue, but the specific advice that one has to follow before they consider investing in one is something I have kind of riled against, and yet I have still derived some good results. So bear that in mind. So with that said, the cartridges are in here. It doesn't need an ink refill, but I'm going to show you how the ink is refilled, just so that you may have some sort of idea how that is done. But before we do that, you go back to the screen, and please wait, if your ink is running out, you will get a sign here showing you that levels that are there and which ones need refilling. Okay, let's see. Yeah, the following. Okay, right. Okay. I just wanted to see if it would tell me the levels of the ink, and it hasn't. Simple reason being, the levels of the ink are not too low enough for that to register. So I'm going to pass on that, but I am going to show you how I refill the ink, just to show you. Now, if you're going to be refilling the cartridge, you want to make sure that you have some gloves or something that will safeguard color from spilling around. And a few things you want to be careful about also is how you handle the colors so they don't bleed into each other, because when they end up bleeding into each other, they end up creating different colorings, as in it discolors your printing, and then your quality of prints is affected. So with that, normally if I want to refill this, I'm going to open the head, and the cover is open, so it's going to bring the cartridges here, and I am perhaps going to pick, let's see which one is here. Okay, I'm gonna go for this black one. The general rule of thumb is, if you refill the cartridges maybe twice, you want to replace them. I am learning as I'm going on, and I haven't done that, which is not great. Now, for you to refill the, I think it might make sense to move the printer out of the way for a minute. Let's see if I can do that. Right, so because I bought this as a package, it came with these syringes, and each of the there's 5 cartridges in there. This is the largest one. The size of the blue one is the small one, and each cartridge comes with this cover over here. And the intention of using this, one second, I will show you how that is used. Half of the time I struggle with this just as much, right? So it has a cover here that has to be put before you even put the ink in the cartridge. The reason being, if you don't cover the bottom and you go to fill the ink in, the ink will flood and colors will go everywhere. You also want to be sure that you have something to clean. And remember, I did say ensure that your color does not bleed. That is really important. So what I am going to do is I'm going to get a glass thing here because I'm just filling one color, right? We have the cover over here, which is on top, which seals. Yep. So that has come off. What I am going to do, oh God, look, it's gone dark already. It stains everywhere. Now you want to go for one of the syringes. It's one syringe for each color. You can't use one syringe for 2 colors, because then you are going to risk mixing colors that will bleed into your mixer. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some color, some ink, I mean, into here. Right, let's shake this a little bit. And I am going to pour that slowly in here. It's just slowly. You have to do it slowly and try not to overfill your cartridge. Like I said, these cartridges are full and did not need refills, but I think based on what I have just found out, it might probably be due having to discard these cartridges and get new ones in. But at least you get to see. And once you fill the color in, you put the top of the ink to seal it back. And then the I keep going the mixer because I'm used to using mixers. Now that that is done, I'm gonna I'm gonna take these out of mine. You want to be very, very careful, because in the past this has bled and covered my work surface, which I haven't been. Okay, the ink tank cannot be recognized, right? Because there is no color in there. So I'm gonna get a pair of gloves again, and I hope you can see what I am doing here though. Let's see. I really hope you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to get some gloves in, because I could do this with my hand, but because I'm busy trying to teach you something, if I'm not careful, I'm going to end up having color bleed everywhere, and I'm trying to just avoid that. With that done, I'm going to put that back, get straight back into the printer head, and once that is done, we are going to remove the, right, I've got to be careful here. Yep, I've got that. And black goes back in. So because I have some, right, this is what the small one looks like. So the other one was larger, but this is what the small black looks like. And you want to make sure it is covered. So it's now sealed. I'm gonna go back in here, take the filter, as in the seal, over out, and I am going to put some ink slowly. Sometimes the ink is absorbed into the sponge part, which is over here. See? I didn't listen to my own advice. Okay, that is just by the way. These things happen, and it's happened to me a few times, even when I'm not filming. But today I just thought I would show you what this looks like if you're doing it, so that you can see someone else fail at something. Right, got it. Okay, I'm trying to wipe the bottom so the leak is not too much. And right, we filled that. I'm kind of tempted to top up the rest of the colors, which I will probably do whilst I'm still here. Right, that's the black color refilled. Whew. Right, let me just wipe my worktop a little bit. If you have any questions, you want to put them in the chat for me, and I will answer them. I don't think I can see the chats happening. Normally the chat is a little more engaging, except I can't see. So right, there we are. I'm gonna take this off, have another pair, and then we can refill the yellow. Right, there's the blue, which is the CM. There you are. And we are going to take that out. Right, that needs a bit of refilling. And again, same as before, we are going to go ahead and seal that. Take the seal over. Right. Okay. I should have opened the top. These are some of the scatty ways. And if you're drawing the ink, you want to be very careful. But if there's anyone in the chat who knows a bit more about edible printing than I know, because clearly I've just told you I know nothing about them. Okay, right, there you go. Okay, and then we cover that. Right, and we take the bottom. Right, what I'm going to do is try and wipe the cartridge itself clean. Try and wipe the entire thing. Yeah. Right. And tissue. Right. And oh. Right. Let's get into the printer head. Some days I worry that I'll snap this accidentally. Right, okay. Right. And in the tank, the head, there are labels for each of the color. What have I done there? Okay. I think the printer has switched itself off. So let's reset before we move on to the next color, because like I said, I don't want the colors to bleed. Right now, we've done black, we've done blue. Oh, look at me smearing the color everywhere. I did tell you I was going to be doing this from a complete amateur's perspective, and clearly you can see, right? So we've done that. I'm gonna take my happy Monday though, whilst you're watching me fail at my edible printer stuff here. Happy Monday. How is your Monday? Good morning, good afternoon, good day. Where are you watching from? Leave us in a reaction in the chat so we know where you are joining us from. There is 59 currently of you in there. You will be helping the channel a lot if you do consider liking the video, just so that YouTube knows you have been here. Let's see. Okay, right. I'm just getting, let's see. Printer error occurred. So I'm going to turn the printer off. Okay. Right, so we are getting the yellow. Right. Okay. As you can see, I think the yellow is a little more clearer because the other colors were a little bit dark. So you have the sponge part where the ink soaks in and then filters into the head, and then that's the printing. And obviously there is the refill part. So I'm going to do what I just did. And I think from research also, the Canon printers are probably the best ones for edible printing. So if you want to get a printer for your edible printing, consider a Canon. And like I said, this video is not sponsored at all. It's just because I do this in my very amateur way, and I thought we could all benefit from watching me do it the way I'm doing it. And even if I'm failing, hopefully you can learn something new at this, right? So we are okay, so we are just going to refill this slowly. I've just topped it up over here, and that's all we need. And the pot is back in there, and then the last one will obviously be the magenta. Right. Okay. Okay. Right. And the last one is the magenta. But before I do the magenta, I've got to cover the pot. Joe, there is an IT technician. Online support is okay. You never know who is watching. Hi, Joe. Sat in your office. My dinner break as an IT technician. I bet you're having a laugh, Joe. I'm a cake maker. I know nothing about printers, Joe. Hi there, Joe. I hope you are having a lovely dinner break. The whole thing is making me laugh. But that was the point. The point was to come on here and show you my failings. So if you have, Aina, I know you are an IT technician, but yeah. I think, Joe, you're the guy I need over here, right? To fix all of these things and do the settings for me. How much would you charge me? So I have an IT technician in the chat who is literally watching me mess my entire stuff up here. I never came here as a pro. I can only tell you I can. Oh, thank you, Joe. Look, I never came here to promise you I was going to do this greater things. No. So, and if you've been on this channel before, you'll find we are okay with sharing our mistakes. It's okay. It's okay to fail at something and to let the world see you fail at it because that's how you learn, right? I didn't become a cake decorator overnight. What you see as success in beautiful cakes came over 10 years of doing the same thing. And half of the time, the cakes that have failed, you haven't seen them, people. So you can see. But Joe says I'm doing okay. So I guess I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Joe, thank you for the confidence boost because I was like, I can either come and tell you all about the great things I know about cake decorating, or I can come and humanize myself, right? And this is what I would do if the camera wasn't even watching me. I'll still be doing this mess out here. So we've topped our printer ink out here, right? And I'm gonna give it a wipe quickly. And all 78 of you over there, where are you watching from? Are you hate watching me or something? Because there is only, I think, about 6 people who have liked the video so far, and yet you're all in there. I know it's Monday and you've probably got Monday blues and you hate your boss and stuff. And what's that got to do with anything? Anyway, right. We'll put the bottom back in here. Right. Can you see me squirming? Right. And then we're going to go back in here. And put there. Okay. So we've topped up the ink in there. Oh, good morning from Texas. Good morning. Too real. Too real. How are you? You are too real over there from Texas. I know my American friends are having some crisis over there. Can I have a cup of tea, please? Can I sip tea? My mouth is dry and I haven't had breakfast. It's 1:10, nearly 10 past 1, and I haven't eaten at all. So if you've been here, you will know we love a cup of tea here. Well, I love a cup of tea. So much of the time we're doing a little more fun things. Oh, Alicia, is it Alicia? Say Alicia or something. Where are you watching me from? You hate your job. Why is that, my darling? Why is that? Let's talk about it. Let's see if we can cheer you up. Because if you've been here before, we are a little bit serious here. If you catch me on a baking day where I am literally nerding out on baking ingredients and stuff like that, it can be fun for me, but it can also be annoying. It can be annoying. And some days, I think in recent times, I've tried to come on so that we can keep things lighthearted whilst I'm organizing bits and bobs, doing hauls. And this is one of the technical things that I suck at. But I thought I'll come and show you my flaws so that we can still have a laugh. So if you're there, I know, oh, Alicia say, can you answer? Well, Joe, is your boss not going to allow you to have a cuppa? What kind of boss is that? If we're in England, you should be able to go to the staff kitchen and have a cup of tea, isn't it? Or your break is exhausted. Joe, you need to clarify your request because I ain't trying to fall out with your boss on your behalf, okay? But Alicia says her boss. Alicia, I hope your boss is not watching me, okay? Because I would hate for you to lose your job. Alicia, I love you being here with me, but if you're drinking white wine on the job, no wonder you hate the boss. Oh Lord. Okay, right. On a serious note, Alicia, are you okay? Seriously, because white wine on the job. Joe, what have you got to say about that one? How do you think your boss will cope if you showed up on the job with white wine in hand? Joe, tell us about it. Joe's boss wouldn't even allow Joe to have a cup of tea, okay? And Joe is trying to ask me to ask his boss. Okay, the ADHD gang is in the chat. Anybody notice? Okay. Oh, Alicia, you're working from home. Okay. You know what? Anybody in the chat who has ADHD, help our sister out. Okay. We're here supporting each other. So I, ADHD has become very common, and it's nice to have the conversation for stuff like that. I'm quite lucky. Uh, Joe, you're a man of many skills, right? Oh, well done then. Congratulations to you, and lucky you having a great boss, right? You know what? Sometimes I just feel like bosses get a bad slack, but if you can just think of the boss's own problems from their own perspective, it could make your life a little bit better. You know what? I'll say this. I I never hated the jobs I had throughout my lifetime of working. I've never felt like I hate my boss or hate my job, but I haven't loved my jobs as much as I love what I do now. And that's because if you haven't noticed, I hate taking instructions. I don't like being told what to do, but I never railed against it. I just knew that I just didn't like dumb stuff. Like if you're a dumb boss, I don't care for you. But I guess I can say that out loud now, except I don't suppose now, in hindsight, I had a boss, the boss that would eventually be the reason why, part of the reason why I eventually transitioned to follow my dream. Um, they weren't very nice, but it wasn't so much. Somebody can be a nice person, but just suck at being a boss. And then sometimes you have a very nice person struggle with um, the sort of, I guess, being a boss. If you're my boss, we're not meant to like each other. We're not friends. You're going to make some professional decisions that I don't like, but I respect you. And I think that's my perspective. Except sometimes when you like your boss because they're cool with you, emotions can get involved a little bit. But if you can always revert back to the fact that the relationship is supposed to be professional, and there are always going to be some unlikely decisions that will work against you, but it's not personal. If you can maintain that perspective, I guess you will have a great time in your career. I tell you one time, I had a boss who was like a mom, and I say a mom because she had the stern attitude of a disciplinarian, but she had the heart of a person who just wanted to see me succeed. And I had very bad habits in my career. Yeah, I did have some really bad habits that needed straightening, because left to my devices, I just went with my own convenience. I always had commitment to my work. I will come into work, I will work, and I kept long hours. And for context, I worked a long time in social care as a support worker, carer in various capacities. So, left to my own devices, I would go along with the convenience. So I guess I never needed a boss to keep me in line, but having a boss around made it also easy for me to toe the line for my own well-being and safety and success in career, right? But I had this boss who had a fearsome reputation. She was so revered. She had the aura of a disciplinarian. But when I got to know her, we connected on a very yeah, very nice grounds. And I was going through a hard time in my own life at the time, and she really supported me until one day I took the pee. Like, I came to do my washing at work, and a colleague that I fell out with grassed me up, and my boss showed up in the morning. God, she threw the book at me. At the time, I think I was just upset because I thought she would understand the difficulty and how I came to the decision. But I wasn't mad that she threw the book at me, right? She dragged me to disciplinary, what do you call it? Disciplinary action. And yeah, I was given a written warning. And yeah, I'm telling you about my life. But generally, I didn't take up. I was hurt by it because I was emotionally invested with her as my boss. But once I took that out, I recognized my own shortfalls and actions towards it, and it was done. And I'd like to think I was a great worker and an asset to the company. So it was more her asserting her authority to say, this is not acceptable, more than it was to kind of be punitive towards me. And that was okay. And I like that boss. And I think yeah, I've had some nice bosses throughout my life as when I worked a traditional job. And then the boss I would encounter before eventually transitioning, she wasn't a nice human being. Like, she wasn't really nice. But I never, like, it wasn't even about her. Even talking about it now, it's, I don't look at her and think, oh, I hate you, or you're not a nice. I just knew that she was in for herself, and I guess that is also influenced by her own circumstances. You know, she was the boss who was all invested into getting what she wanted out of you and never wanted to bend to what, because to keep good staff, you have to recognize what is important to your staff and be able to feed that need where reasonably possible. And she wasn't here for any of that. She just wanted you to come to work, and then she wanted to cheat you out of money. For context, some days, like, even at the time, just how long ago that was. That was when minimum wage was about, those in the UK would know, minimum wage was about £8.40, I believe, at the time. So this was just about COVID 2020 era. And yeah, you'd go to work, and at the end of your pay, you check your salary, and she deducted pennies. So instead of the £8.40, it is showing on the pay slip as £8.40. But when you do the calculations, you've been paid about £8.30. And you're like, why? You know, so yeah, it came to a head where yeah, I had just let things slide for a long time, and then on this day I was like, no, I'm not going to succumb to a boss who was just like taking advantage of me, you know. So eventually I quit the job. Yeah, and that will set me on the path to where I am. And I look back and I'm like, oh, it's a good thing that happened then, because I was very scared at the time. But had I not actually quit the job in rebellion of her behavior and her bullying of me, I wouldn't be here today. So I guess sometimes the bad things in our lives are for good reason. But I guess I say that from a place of privilege. Had I not tried it, I would never have known. And that is just by the way. So Alicia, um, uh, oh, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. Go enjoy work. And Temperance McCormick. Hi there, Alicia. You shouldn't have done that though. Yes, Alicia, I shouldn't. I know, Alicia, I should never. You know what? That's what I said. That I look back now and I realize what, like, how irresponsible that is. So I'm not even blaming the situation at her. But yeah, having difficult bosses can actually make work and well-being a little bit hard. And Alicia, I just hope you feel better. If we can do anything to keep you going today, I hope we can do that for you. But for the rest of you in the chat, we're here trying to work on this edible printer, okay? And I have refilled the cartridges with ink and all of that. We've talked about the ink and all the things. Oh, okay. Yeah. Look at me. We've refilled the ink in there. So we are going to try and attempt to print some images. But before we do that, we'll be talking about the various forms of edible items that we can print so that you have some context. But Alicia is talking about, yeah, my former boss, right? There's a whole story about it. But I have a rather positive channel here where I try not to bring negative experiences. So yes, I just touched on the story just to give you some context of my journey and some difficulties that might turn out to be good thing in your life. But generally, yeah, I try not to be a negative channel over here talking about negative things. But that boss was just not a great person. They might be great in other aspect, but when I say they're not a great person, I don't even say that because I dislike. I just say it as a statement of fact because my experience with them wasn't really nice, and it wasn't the typical. I'm not supposed to like my boss because they are always ever going to make some professional decisions that I would dislike as an employee, and that's how it works. Your bosses make unfavorable decisions for the company, and some days it goes against you. I think it's replace the word not great with exploitative. I had a boss who had exploitative tendencies, and unfortunately for the company, it was a small family run company where the buck stopped with her, right? So she wasn't a great human being. She wasn't nice. She made some really questionable decisions, and there was a lot of things happening in the back end that almost always made me like side eye the whole situation. But I'm just incredibly grateful that that is all in my past, and I hope that she's a better person and she better serves her employees today. People are always going to have companies and people are going to have negative experiences. It's neither here nor there. I say the only reason this matters is that had I not challenged her and then quit in rebellion, and then it forced me into a situation to face my own fears and then pursue my dream, being here today would never have happened. So it ended up being a good situation for me, and I speak blessings to her and her situation and her life. But for me, it's like in the past, let's move on. So, Alicia, I wish you well, and I hope, really, 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 really hope that you are feeling better today and all things work out for you over there. Now, let's go back to printing. Now we have filled the ink and everything. The next thing will be to print out some images. Now, to print out your images, you have two mediums through which you can derive the printing. You can derive it from wafer paper printing, or you can derive it from icing sheets. They can be used interchangeably on certain occasions, but they are not the same. I will make an effort to leave some useful resources and information in the description box at the end of this video, just so that you can have some better understanding of wafer paper. But sometimes to have a generalized view of wafer paper and icing sheets, you want to focus on the appearance of each. I'm gonna tear this up. It's a new box. I don't know, let me see, right? So the general difference between a wafer paper and icing sheet is that icing sheet is made out of a selection of ingredients that include starch, glycerin, and some colors that are pressed into a backing sheet. It is thicker, it is flexible, it has coloring in it, so it's whiter in color. It is very flexible and is generally used for wrapping around cakes, can be laid onto fondant. And the printing quality of an icing sheet is way better than that of wafer paper. However, the icing sheet can be a little bit chewy, can be a bit heavy on a cake, and also can bleed when it is used for when it is used for when it's used on a cake. So I will also be telling you about ways that can help you, ways that you can derive best quality out of it, right? So those are some of the general things you want to know about icing sheet. I will show you that in a moment. Wafer paper though, let's see. Wafer paper dough is made out of potato starch, sometimes rice starch, depending on which. where you are shopping and what the ingredient listing is, right? So, right, I'm talking about wafer paper. 1 second. So, here are the difference. As you can see, there is a difference in appearance of both, right? Maybe because you're watching it on screen, it might not appear same to you, but when you look closely, this is very flexible, but it's also very delicate, and it doesn't look as cleanly white as the icing sheet. For starters, the icing sheet is a little more flexible compared to the wafer paper, and it is pressed on a backing sheet, which is a plastic acetate here. So these are the two elements that you have here. So I did speak about what the icing sheets does. The icing sheets are so delicate that they shouldn't be exposed to air so much, because then they tend to dry out very quickly and they break when you use them. So for the two mediums that you will be deriving printing, you want to consider icing sheets or wafer paper. Now, the thing about wafer paper is that wafer paper, as flexible as it is, you can use it for making wafer paper flowers. Because it's also flexible, it can bend to certain shapes, and then you can form decorative elements out of it using maybe a spritz of glycerin or water. One thing when we talk about wafer paper and water or any form of moisture is that you want to be very, very careful. It tends to be super delicate that in contact with water, it will warp. So when you're using it for cake decorating, as in printed cake decorating, you want to be careful of how it attaches to, say, the cake and the element. And depending on how you store the cake, you might end up having a less quality outcome from using wafer paper. Nonetheless, it is better at certain shapes and other formations that would end up as decorative elements on your cake compared to icing sheets. Whilst you can create wafer paper flowers from wafer paper sheets, it can be difficult to derive those from icing sheets because icing sheets dry and crack very easily when they're exposed to um, air for a very long time. But depending on what your need and use is, having it outside for it to dry out may probably serve you. One way to get this drying hard really crispy, if you need to, is to use a hair dryer or pop it in the oven on a warm fan setting, and it will dry set. I have never had to use it that way, but hey, you never know. But the clear difference is when you're using wafer paper or icing sheets, ensure that your contact with moisture is extremely limited because wafer paper will warp and bleed, whereas whilst icing sheets will print better and give you a good quality of print, it also could bleed. With that said, we are going to derive a quick print for you to see how I got this image, which is here. Now, because I printed this image, obviously, from here already, that's on a wafer paper sheet. What I did was I'm going to print the image from the icing sheet, and then we will talk about my process. Normally, what some printers will do, people who are advanced in using the edible print, what they will do more than anything is they will formulate um, they will formulate the design in some sort of software or app. So depending on what you're using, from Canva to your Microsoft Word or Microsoft, any of the Microsoft elements, they can create the image in there, scale it. So you can design the whatever you need in some sort of third party app, and then save it over your phone. The good thing about this printer is that you can connect it by wireless connectivity. So I tend to use the wireless connectivity a lot because I don't have the connection to a PC done. Also, The reason for the PC use would have been if I were creating, say, the images and scaling them via some sort of PC based app, right? But I don't do that. Essentially, my use of the edible printer is very limited to my own convenience. In that, if I was deriving a very quick print that I needed for a very quick design, then I can derive the print. So what I do, I did say I was going to talk to you about what I do exactly, just so that I can talk you through my process. In that way, you are better informed. So what I do essentially is that I go straight to Google, and then for whatever image. So this image here is the anger guy from In and Out, the movie. I haven't seen the movie, but it's a popular thing. So think of any theme that you can think of, say a Taylor Swift's album cover. If you're looking for the image or the print or the album art or whatever, think about the image. I just go on Google and I enter the item I am looking for, and I seek it in, say, a PNG clear background, so, or clip art. So for instance, if I was looking for angry man, I enter on the Google search. So this is generally Google. You go on Google search, you're like angry man from In and Out PNG images. And then when Google derives the images, you just filter down to images. So Google will normally derive it in all, depending on what your filter is. So I enter the information, it brings me a lot of all of it. And then I filter it down to images. So when I get the image, if it's PNG or whether it's clip art, depending on how you want to get it, that is how I enter the information. And then when I do, I just screenshot it straight on my phone. So perhaps, I don't know if you can see over my phone, but I'm going to attempt to see if you can see. So for instance, we are looking at what's Google telling me the exact weather. So for instance, I'm looking for, let's say, unicorn rainbow. I'm actually thinking of an image. What image is in, okay, let's see, angry man. Okay, anger. Is it anger or anger? In and Out movie. Anger, In and Out. Right. So you see, it came up with all here. So I just go down to, can you see? I go down to images. So for instance, if this is the image that I want to have, like this one, right? I go on to screenshot it. Oh, it's closed it for me. Right. So I'm gonna, let's see. Yeah, it's screenshot. So I'm gonna go straight. When it's screenshot, it saves it in my photo gallery. So I go straight on here, as you can see, the image is here. And what I do is I then go and I crop anything that I don't want showing in the image. So there you have it. And then I save. And at this point, it is saved. So because my printer is connected to the phone wirelessly, I can just go on the share. I'm not sharing it on Instagram. Why is that? Okay, that's right. There you are. I can go on share and then print. So when print, it says, do you want to use the following? Yes. Right? So that's the image right here, if you can see. Right? That's the image showing right in there. In the printer square there, you can press on this to zoom in on the image or to zoom out, right? But I need the image to just be. And then down here, right? So there's the print option. But before the print option, you can go to print settings, and the settings will give you the options. So depending on the size, you have the yes, right? So you have all the various sizes you can print here. So depending on what I need it for, I just go for A4. But say if I wanted a smaller print, I sometimes go for the A5 or the 4x6. which is showing on here. So depending on the options, I guess if I were scaling my own images, there would be a better way to do that. But because I don't know much of the settings, I have just found a convenient way that this serves me. For my cupcake toppers and stuff like that, I just order them, because I don't understand and don't know how to do all the small cupcake toppers by size. But that is just saying. Now, one of the problems I have had with the printing is that this tends to be very heavy. It is very, especially with the backing sheet. So sometimes when you're trying to derive the print, the printer can struggle a bit. So let's try it a little bit and see. So of course, I've talked you through the process, which is what I use to derive this edible print here. But I am going to try and print the same image on an icing sheet with the backing sheet. And if we have problems, sometimes I take out the backing sheet and then I replace the backing sheet with wafer paper, and that works for me, right? So let's see. So we have A4 sheets over there, and that's it. So I'm going to press print for the man anger over there. And there you have it. So it is showing printing. So let's see. Okay. You'll find that the printer won't do much. It will struggle a little bit. We'll see. And if today is the day the printer gives up on me, we will all find out live anyway. So I really hope. Cat, I am very well, darling. How are you, darling? I hope you're doing well. Today we are doing all things edible printing because I am going to be back tomorrow and the rest of the week with simplistic designs that are derived from using edible prints. So hopefully you stick around, but I hope you are keeping well. Right, so let's see. It seems like it is printing. So let's see how Angry Man works out. But I did zoom him in a little bit. So let's see. And then we're going to compare the quality of the print on the icing sheets to that of the wafer paper. And it should be telling. And if you're still here in the chat, do consider subscribing. It does help the channel a lot. And we are quite a supportive bunch here. So hopefully you are learning something and you're feeling completely supported. So Alicia, how are you hanging in there? Are you all right? Parkat, how is your Monday going? Monday can make you feel a little bit blue sometimes. Okay, right. So because I zoomed Angry Man anger in a little bit, can we tell the quality of print? Right? This is a lot more sturdy. The wafer paper is a little more flimsy. Now, if I put water on this one, it will warp, and you will see that in a moment. Whereas if I put water over this, it will bleed. That's something to note. So that is the anger from what do you call it, in and out, and that's the difference in quality. Forget about the size because I zoomed in on the image a little bit when I was showing you. So the size one is a little smaller than the other, but let's focus on the quality of print, right? If I take this out, it's a little like, yeah, as you can see, whereas the wafer paper is a lot more sturdy. But if I put the backing sheet back, the icing sheets get steadier. But of course, if you're going to use the print in your cake, you are not going to be able, you're not going to be able to use the backing sheet. The backing sheet is just support that you can trim or you can take out when you're using. So normally I, with a print like this, and this is about how I use my edible print. So for the cakes I will be deriving, you can come back to this video and then you will see my process. But for say tomorrow, I'll be back to create a small cake using this specific print here. And then you will see how that ties into the theme of the week. And hopefully by the end of the week, we will have derived like a few different cakes that are very popular, that are very known, that are trendy. And then, yeah, you can learn to do this. Right. If you don't have the investment of a printer, of course, you can always order prints like this. There are edible people who specialize in edible printing around. And sometimes there are bakeries that offer custom printing services. I have a supplier that I contact for printing services like this, and she is amazing. I will leave her link in the description box. And when I want specific toppers and stuff like that, there are suppliers that I go to. I think I have to sit down and create a list of all of those so that if you want to use them, you can have access to all those things. So for me, this is how easy. If I needed this image to be smaller, I'll probably derive it in the A5 and then I'll cut it. So there's a lot of guesswork happening here for my edible printing. But for what I need it for, I guess it works. If you don't do a lot of printing or don't need it at all, then perhaps you want to focus on buying them when necessary. You can get a custom print service, or on Amazon, you can find print services that offer the option of edible prints. So yes, I just find that to be able to get some specific custom elements, there are some who may not be able to do them for you because of copyright reasons and all sorts of reasons like that. But the edible sheets themselves, I think I picked these ones for £21 total price. I will link all the resources here in the description box when I'm done, so that you can come back to this video if you need to, just so that you are informed about all of that. So this is just to kind of give you some sort of idea about generalized information about edible printing, where my weaknesses are, how I use mine, the reason why I use it. Essentially, I got this for convenience for when I'm in a pickle, and it has served me well. Like I said, I don't do a lot of edible printing. I don't know a lot around this thing, and I think I could do better with it. But sometimes I wish I had somebody who specifically specialized in the art of creating these things, especially if I had access to a Cricut, because Cricut does some amazing things too and adds a level of decoration to your cakes that makes for better presentation and can be elegant. So that is something to bear in mind. But if you never need a printer, don't be like me. Don't go pick one, because that's look better. Yes, yes, the quality. So just for clarity, the quality of print is better on the icing sheet compared to the wafer paper. But like I said, I will leave information in the description box about the specific differences and what you should look out for if you need wafer paper or icing sheets. And when I come to deriving the printout for the design elements for the specific cakes I am going to be undertaking, you will see the difference in results for either of those. So hopefully that is of some use to you. Okay, Parker took the day off to do some cleaning. So yes, that is it about me and my edible printing my edible printer and what it does and my own limitations. That said, I knew that I was going to struggle because this is not my area of expertise. So I did go to my caking group to ask them what help. So here was a question I asked my fellow people who know a bit more than me. I asked them, I said, edible printers, what do you wish you knew before buying one? What would a newbie know before investing in one? Tips for care, lessons learned on use, anything, just leave me some thoughts. And one person, this is Miss Liz, she says, you use it or you lose it. Seriously, edible printers don't like going weeks without use. Print a test page on ordinary paper once a fortnight if you haven't used it. So these are some tips for you for edible printing. So if you're finding some value in this video, do consider liking the video. And of course, do subscribe to the channel. We are helpful here, aren't we? Okay, let me drink a cup of tea. Right. She said, print a test page on an ordinary paper once a fortnight if you haven't used it. I refill my cartridges twice, then I have to replace them. I guess I broke that rule. So run a test to make sure it prints once a fortnight. That is if you haven't used it in the fortnight. Use it frequently because otherwise the head clogs. I have referenced that. Refill your cartridges twice and then discard them. Just don't just keep refilling them just for the sake, okay? Also, slightly underfill, as overfilling can do some damage. Yes, overfilling can cause a leak and can damage the printer. You take them out of the printer. Yes, you want to, some printers cannot, some printer cartridges are compact in there and you can't take them out. It's advisable to get the printer that has cartridges that you can remove. So look for removable cartridges that will do you some good. So take them out of the printer to refill so they don't damage your print head. So don't be lazy. You saw me try to struggle with filling the parts. It's all part of the course. If you want to refill your printer cartridges, don't be tempted to refill them whilst they sat in the printer, because whilst you can take them out, I guess you can find a way to fill them in there. And if you did that, you might cause the ink to bleed and it might affect the efficiency of your printer head. That is if it doesn't break your printer. So worst case, it will break the printer or cause you printer problems. That's your worst case scenario. But at best, it could also lead to a bleed in your printer head, which can affect the quality of printing for you. So take them out of the printer to refill and don't refill them. Don't refill the ink in the printer. You will damage the printer head. Use the cleaning cartridges every 3 to 4 months. It's an expensive but really useful bit of kit. It's what, so cleaning cartridges. Okay, so you need to get a cleaning cartridge that will clear your cartridge for you. So these are all tips that I will leave in the description box for you, just so that you have some understanding. And then Rachel says, never let your ink run low enough to trigger the sensor on your laptop or computer. Even if you fill it up, it will still tell you it's running low. Oh, okay. I think I've had that problem where I have filled my printer up and it's still telling me I am running low. And I guess that is more on me. Okay. So these are some tips that I sought out for you, and hopefully I sort these out for you. So hopefully they are of some use. But like I said, I will leave more information in the description box for you. That said, that is it with the edible printer, printing, the quality of sheets. If you have further questions, leave them here and I will answer them before we call it a day for this one, because I will surely be back tomorrow with actual cake decoration where we will do more decorative things with the edible printer. That said, another thing I just wanted to say is that when you derive your printed images, if you find you're not going to be able to use them immediately, store them in an airtight pouch or something, because icing sheets will dry quickly and hard and will begin to break, whilst wafer paper will dry set and can be difficult to work with sometimes. So if you're not going to use them, what I've done is I have put the backing sheets back on it. It comes in a sealed pouch here. So I've put them back and I've sealed it back and it's going back in the paper. But what I do is I double fold this, and I normally would put a sellotape to seal it back, and then it goes back in the box, and that is where it stays. I have some extra ones where I have my used sheets and unused sheets, and it stays there. And you'd be surprised how long these can stay, you know, for you. So that is just about that. With that said, if you have further questions for me, I'll take them. If not, we will call it a day.